Hey everyone, it's Fred here from Hillians Bricks and welcome to this video. Now before I get started, I would like to ask you to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more LEGO content in the future. So today I'm going to be talking about the race to zero when it comes to LEGO on Bricklink. Now, as we will have noticed, inflation is pretty much everywhere, and recently LEGO have been increasing their prices. And I saw some comments where people from the Bricklink community were saying it's harder and harder to find sets to part out that hit the 3:1 part out value ratio. Now, that is true, especially because LEGO, as I mentioned, have increased their prices, and Bricklink seems to have a race to zero. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be discussing and show some examples and maybe something that the community needs to think about going forward. So, first of all, I'm going to show you some charts, and so we have to understand how part out values typically work and the trends of them. So I've been doing lots of analysis on part out values. I make that data available every month to my Patreon members, where they can see all the part out values for all the sets that are currently active. And I've kind of gone back in history and picked 4 sets to kind of show you a graph, and you will see there is a trend on how part out values perform. Now, the first chart we're going to be looking at is the 10276, which is the Colosseum. And as you can see, it's a downward trend from when it starts, and all these sets I'm going to be showing have a similar lifespan so far. So this started at 1,250 part out value, and as of now, September 2022, we're looking at 787. So that suggests that the pricing for all the parts in that set is coming down. That's a set that hasn't got any minifigures, so it starts off quite high because new parts, and then gradually as more and more supply comes into play, it goes down. Next we're going to look at is 75290. So Star Wars Mos Eisley Cantina, a set with lots of minifigures. So this one started off again at £650, and then it's been going downhill, and it's kind of like plateaued out now around 480, and the last few months now it's slowly crept up by a few pounds every month. It's now around 485, 486 pounds part out value. So it just seems to kind of have bottomed out, and that probably means because the minifigures are keeping some value and those parts are in high demand, so things like that do have an impact as well. Next we're going to look at another set, LEGO IDs 123 Sesame Street, so 21324. Again, this one started at £300 more or less part out value. Now we're around 194, and it almost seems like a straight line down, although it seems to be bottoming out. But we've had some price increases and we're not seeing an immediate impact in the numbers going up on Bricklink, and that's where people find the issue, where there's not enough sets to give you the 3:1 ratio. But all the charts are not always the same. I'm going to show you a different one. It's a LEGO Friends set. It is the Heart Lake City Movie Theater 41448. As you can see, it had a big spike in the beginning, and this is not because the prices went up in the parts. It's just likely when I started tracking the data, it did not actually have all the parts available. So there was a bit of a lag before people then started parting out and oversupply started to kick in. And again, this went from like £56 to 73 part out value, and now it's down to 52 and still going down, and it will kind of bottom out. The trend is with sets, once they retire, then it slowly creeps up a part out value, but not at the rate we would like, especially with current inflation and things like that. So I mentioned race to zero. So 85% of common parts of all these sets will be on a race to zero. People just oversupplying. And what are the fundamental 3 reasons here? So I've already mentioned there's oversupply in the market. There's too many sellers parting out the same sets or the same parts, and not enough demand for those parts. So people want to shift those parts and sell them, and they start selling them at lower prices. And this is where a vicious circle starts, because I would say probably 90% of the people in the community have this mindset of using the last 6 months average. So your sales that you happen to have for every single part will dictate future 6-month average pricing. So if you have a reasonable size stock from a certain part and you sell lots of them and you sell that below average, guess what? The average price for the last 6 months is starting to come down. So if everyone starts to follow that logic, that's where you end up getting with your race to zero. And people sometimes might think, oh, my store, I'm going to do a sale, and oh, it's driving more sales. But ultimately, if you look at it in the long run, you're damaging not just yourself, but pretty much the whole community, because everybody's on this race to zero. They're doing promotions, undercutting, and eventually what you'll end up left with is only the biggest stores will be sustainable from this aspect, and people will end up, the smaller stores will just end up selling parts just to recover some money, but profit is probably not going to happen. So I feel if for Bricklink to be sustainable, there needs to be a mindset shift and a change in attitude of people, how they do the part out and how they look at things, right? So it's going to be very interesting now to monitor if we're going to see some increases in the parts value because of price increases. Now, if you look at the last 2-3 years, forever since I started, I've not seen any increases in the market in price, you know, from Lego. There was no inflation like there is now. Are we going to see prices creep up on Bricklink on average as well? Or is there still going to be a race to zero because people are just ultimately looking to shift rather than to actually make money? But there is a simple solution, but it's unrealistic that it's likely to happen because it needs a big majority of people and users to actually adopt this for this change to happen. And there's always going to be people who are going to look for sales and starting to do things to drive down the value of every single part. But the simple solution is not to use the last 6 months average as a base. Simply what people need to look at is what is the current average price of every single part and use that as a baseline going forward. Now, if people start to use the current average, yes, there's sometimes some outliers because people are going to ask for silly prices for certain parts. But if you use the current 6-month average, it kind of keeps the things moving forward. And what you'll ultimately see is that the price, rather than starting to go down for every part, it will slowly start to creep up because people will be looking, okay, someone's going to price a little bit higher, and then that sells. You know, guess what? It starts to go up rather than, you know, when you look at the last 6 months, vicious circle of actual sales, it starts to go downhill quite rapidly. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comment section. I'll be interested to hear your views on this. So this is my personal opinion. There is a race to zero going on, and I believe that only in the long run the larger stores are going to be sustainable, unfortunately. But yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.